Welcome to the Rise Up Sessions, a psychology podcast about real life, real change, and the decisions that shape us. Okay, welcome back. Episode 3. And today we are talking about starting your business when you're broke. Quite broke. Everybody has this opinion that it would be better to start with capital. Yeah, it would be better if my parents were filthy rich and if mommy and daddy could have paid for, everything, $200,000 in student loans, that kind of thing. But no, like many other people, I started my business with nothing, not knowing what I was doing. They do not teach this in grad school. And I literally started with nothing. I was taking furniture from the marketplace. I found my current, it was then and now, my current office space on Craigslist. I think I've said that before. And it was the best mistake I could have made because I now basically have half the building and the rent is very, very, very reasonable. Landlord's amazing. He's currently stuck in India because of the war in the Middle East, which stinks. Arun, I hope you make it home safe soon. And I really started out not having any idea how I was going to make rent, what I was going to do. But I did have something that I think is very helpful in this industry or in business in general, which is the hustler mentality. I hustled so hard. I signed up to one of those companies that credentials you with insurance, but it was going to take a few months before I was going to be in credentialing. Cheers with some iced latte, chai latte. So in the meantime, I offered people $50 sessions, just get them in the door. I took anyone who would see me. I pushed myself really hard on Facebook groups and on Psychology Today and these other places that people kind of go in search of referrals and in search of therapists for those referrals, and filled up my caseload pretty quickly. But oh my gosh, I mean, it was rough. It was really rough those first few months. And honestly, I didn't start making a real profit until a year or so into it. And it wasn't just because they always tell you that your first year of business, you're not going to make profit. That is 100% true from what I understand. I didn't do any of the studies, but from what I understand, that tends to be the case. In my case, it was like making all of the mistakes that you can make in business, trusting the wrong people, giving the wrong people assignments, growing by accident. It was a situation where I kind of grew because it was the next thing to do and I had the space and I needed to be able to pay for that space. I had no idea what I was doing. But one of the clinicians that started when I first grew is still with me, which is pretty awesome. And all three of us shared 2 offices, and then it became even bigger and bigger and bigger. And very quickly, it was what it is now. But in the beginning, so I got to tell you about my home gym in order for me to explain this situation. In very true ADHD fashion, I decided that I was going to rearrange my entire house and have a home gym. Now, my living room, you can't see from where I'm seated, but my living room is enormous. And I spent time and effort and money and I made the entire home gym. I had a weight rack with 300 pounds of weights. I had a bench. I had dumbbells. I had adjustable dumbbells that you can add weight to so you wouldn't, you can store it nicely. And I had a walking pad. I had everything, including the decor. And one of my favorite pieces of decor, I thought was going to be something about this big. It ended up being an enormous wall hanging that said in huge bold letters, "Nobody cares, work harder." Holy mazzoli, that really, really changed my viewpoint because I kind of adopted that for life, for business, for clinical work, for social aspects, for the gym, for everything. Nobody cares, work harder. Because at the end of the day, when it's just me, about to go to sleep or just waking up or whatever the story may be in my own head, I need to keep accountability to myself. And if I can't do that because I didn't work harder, well, nobody's going to care. My father always used to say, it's your life and nobody can live it for you. So, I mean, do you, but then the mistakes and the lessons are on you too. So, of course, once that gym was complete and everything was absolutely perfect, I stopped using it. So now it's a reading nook, but that's besides the point. The risks that I took in the business aspect of things were almost a given because there was no other way to go. I kind of felt like my back was against the wall and I was either going to close my doors or keep trudging along. It was nobody cares, build anyway. It was nobody cares that you're broke, do it anyway. And ironically, it wasn't until after my divorce I started turning a profit. But that's neither here nor there. I think a big part of what was challenging was that I was so protective of my baby, right? My business, my baby. And learning how to very slowly let that go was a huge challenge. Delegating. I used to know every name of every client that came through the doors. Their situation, their financial situation, which insurance they had, what they were asking for, special concessions. I mean, I knew every single person. At this point, we've got over 350 active clients. I can't know all of their names or I'd be doing nothing but that. I can't know all of their financial situations. I don't know all of their relationships because I can't. But getting to that point was painful. It was letting go of my babies. It was being willing to delegate to other people. It was willing to say, do I trust this person with my clinician? And do I trust my clinician enough to take care of this person, right? Because that was the idea. Creating my own business was a great way for me, A, to learn I never want to work for anybody else ever again. And B, that I can create something that I've always wanted. The decor is completely different than any therapy office I've ever seen. It's very blackout curtains with string lights and lamps and flowers and just very relaxed. I've had people say they feel like they're in their living room. I've had people say that feels like a great place to listen to some 70s music and partake in some extracurricular activities. Drugs, not just very, very different. And the values align so much better because I get to make those decisions, right? So by the way, that's why it's so strange for me to have a business partner now in the new business, because I actually have to run things by somebody else. Brand new experience, still learning, always going to be learning, I hope. But having my values align, creating a space where my employees want to work, that was a big one for me because I didn't really feel that in most of the places that I worked when I was not fully licensed. I always felt like there was something that was not, whether it was that they didn't have my back or kept bombarding me with clients and didn't give me backup, or I didn't feel like I could go and actually ask questions, work-life balance, all kinds of things like that. And I really strive to create that kind of situation. So these days, I just got off of supervision with one of my clinicians and I was picking up the phone in the middle and answering texts but I was apologizing because I really wanted that clinician to know that I was there as much as I could be for supervision and to answer as many questions as they had, because I really would have wanted somebody to do that for me from a business aspect as well as clinical, but certainly mostly clinical, and really just wanted to be as present as I could be while maintaining all of these other things. So letting go, taking risks that my clinicians were going to work out. Not all of them did. Some of them really didn't. One of the things I implemented was a screening process whereby admin screens the clinicians to see what they're like. Because with me, they're going to put on one face, but with the rest of the world, a completely different one. So, okay. Not to give away all of my secrets, but we also do random QA on the clients and to see how the clinicians are doing. Every so often, we'll just call a random bunch of people and just say, hey, is your clinician present? Do they cancel? Do they seem like they know what they're talking about? Are you happy with your services? Because people have a tendency to either keep going, even if they're not happy, or disappear. And I've noticed that very much in the US. Like I've said in previous episodes, in Israel, it would have just been a yelling fest until somebody got a replacement. But that's also the difference in culture. Here, people I've noticed have a tendency to keep going with a service they're not happy with because they don't want to be rude or because of whatever the story may be. So we come to them and say, instead of you being rude to us, we'll just ask you straight up. And people appreciate that. So again, I took the risk of hiring clinicians out of necessity because I needed to pay for my office space, but it turned out to be the best thing because I was able to make all of the mistakes and I was able to learn all of the lessons by doing it myself. Nobody taught me. Nobody was there to guide me. I mean, I picked up things here and there from different other businesses. I'll never forget. There's a practice in Freehold, which is next door to where my office is. And I was so worried about having enough clientele that I applied to work there part-time. And Megan, shout out to Megan, told me from day one that she wasn't going to hire me because I was going to do so well so quickly that she didn't want to get in my way. And ever since then, she's been watching me grow and grow and grow and grow and guiding me, with little things here and there that changed everything. They changed my entire way of doing things just by having a 10-minute conversation, just by having a 15-minute catch up. And it's been really cool to see people who really saw it from day one, and kind of seeing how things progressed from there. So the mistakes that I made, wow. I don't even know where to start. Let's start with going. I have a great ADHD piece and a horrible ADHD piece, and it's the same thing. I will often jump into things without considering them for a long time because I don't work that way. I don't do the long time thing. Often they work out really, really well. Like I said, people will tell me here in America to slow my roll, and I say, no, you catch up to me. I don't slow my roll. I don't do that, and that's why I'm a practice that's turning almost $1 million a year or over $1 million at this point with 15 clinicians when other people are still at 2 or 3 clinicians barely making it happen. No judgment on other people, not trying to throw shade, but I make it happen because I run, go, and you catch up to me. And at the same time, that does come with some mistakes. I've changed EHRs, electronic medical record systems, several times because somebody recommended something, I went with it, and it just didn't work, and we had to switch everybody over. I wanted to switch over now, again, because this EHR is costing me so much. It would have saved me, $20,000 or $30,000 a year to switch, but it would have cost me twice that to switch. So not going to do that right now. It's a huge implementation when we have this many clients. Just going to leave well enough alone. But initially, I had worked at the last place that I was at before I opened my own practice with a woman who was doing credentialing and billing. Oh, Lord. And when I saw her name pop up, I was excited because I thought that she knew what she was doing. Apparently she knew what she was doing, but was very fraudulent about it. So didn't do any of she had access to all of my billing, but didn't actually do any of it, didn't do it correctly, would promise me things and get paid right away and then not do the work. And all of that meant that I wasn't getting paid, but I still had to pay my clinicians. They were getting the work done. It wasn't fair to make them wait. So somehow I made it, by the skin of my teeth, made it happen. And here's the thing, right? I ended up taking her to court, small claims, but court nonetheless, because of loss of wages and because of what I could prove that I had paid that she didn't do the work for. And the thing, in the gym world, there's this awful saying, which I completely disagree with, that nothing tastes as good as skinny feels, which again, completely messed up thinking. But what I will say is I'll adapt that, as I do with many things. I'll take that and I'll switch it to what fits in my mind, which is nothing tastes as good as vindication feels, because I won that court case. And whether I made a ton of money, absolutely not. I mean, if she had to pay me a couple $1,000s, it was a lot. But it was the ability to say I was in the right. I took a risk in suing her, represented myself, went through the whole process and won. I was right. She did the wrong thing. She was fraudulent. She didn't do the work. That really made me feel like I was on the right track. And it sucks that it had to be such a negative experience that made me feel like I was on the right track. But I got to tell you, I'm the kind of person who I don't change until it hurts too much not to. That means that I won't change if being a little tapped on the shoulder going, hey, maybe we do it this way. Hey, maybe you try that way. What do you think? I don't change until I don't get hit in the face by a brick of humility or a brick of truth. It's like somebody who doesn't go to the dentist until their teeth are rotting out of their mouth, right? Until they're completely done for. Unfortunately, that's how I learn. Haven't had to do that with the dentist so far, thank goodness, but certainly when it comes to business and personal stuff, right? I stayed in a marriage that wasn't working for 7 years more than I should have. Almost 8 years more than I should have. I should have left and have realized what was going on and not have continued with it within the first few months. But I didn't learn until it hurt too much not to change. And I don't necessarily regret it because it taught me so much. But those are the big lessons for me, is how to change because of this incredibly dense lesson that came hitting me in the face, to never do it again, to help other people not go through it. Do I wish that I learned the softer way? Sure. Is that how I'm going to learn? Probably not. And I've taken on a couple of supervisees who have their own businesses to help them not make those mistakes. I've learned, and we'll talk about this more next week, the trauma work. One of the biggest reasons that I focus so much on trauma is because I don't want anybody to have to go through what I went through, or help them through what they've been through in a way that helped me work through it. And so being able to look at those lessons and helping other people through them, I don't wish for those lessons, but if I already have them and they already hit me in the face, might as well help other people with them. I'm not some shrewd businesswoman. I don't think that I'm this shrewd businesswoman. I just think that I'm willing to do what other people are not. I'm willing to hustle. I'm willing to take risks. I'm willing to put myself out there. I'm willing to make tough decisions. I'm willing to have tough conversations. I'm willing to say I'm sorry when I'm sorry and when I'm wrong. I've actually made amends to a couple of people that I wasn't good to throughout the process when I was acting out of fear. Whether they accepted it or not is not the point, but I was willing to, because I find that without an ounce of humility or something, it's much more difficult to rebuild bridges after I burn them. And that if I don't get humble quick, something is going to humble me real quick. And I'm not in the mindset that I want to learn by karma if I can avoid it. I think, to summarize, if I'm willing to, or you're willing to, take the jump, do the thing that scares you, whether you're necessarily prepared for it or not. Because again, preparation can take forever, right? Your masterpiece is never finished. But the reason people, in my opinion, stay stuck is because before the pain gets too bad that they're willing to do whatever it takes, they or I keep thinking it's okay, it's not that bad. And then I get stuck, and then it hurts and it hurts and it hurts. and willing to take those leaps faster now because I just don't want it to get that bad changes everything. It makes me learn for better or for worse. It shows me today more often than not that the risk is worth it. Opening a second business with a partner is a huge learning lesson. But I'm very excited, right? Unlike being afraid of getting hit, now I'm excited. What's the world going to teach me? What's going to be the next thing that I have to learn to let go of or delegate? Or what's the next thing that I'm going to be able to prove to myself that I've done right, that I've done well, even if it's because the lesson was learned? The hustle mentality, the being broke and doing it anyway. We are hemorrhaging money right now with this new business, hemorrhaging. It's coming out of everywhere. It's for the new spot that we're hoping to sign the lease on, and that's thousands and thousands of dollars for security and deposit and all that. It's the consulting firm. It's setting up everything from the EHR to the phone systems. It's hiring new clinicians. It's so many things that we're just money everywhere. With knowing that we're taking a risk, and if it pays off, great, and if it doesn't, we've learned a lesson. I'm willing to take those risks, and I'm willing to learn those lessons, because otherwise, what am I doing here? Right? The minutia of every day, the predictability, all that, it's nice and it's good and it's it's also boring. And I don't want boring. I want interesting. I want growth. I want learning. My brain gets thirsty for learning. I'm going to be taking more trainings. Because this new business is focused on eating disorder, and I don't really have a lot of experience with that. So let's go do that. I'm going to be training them on trauma and OCD. It's exciting, and it is building anyway and taking the risks. So if you could relate to any of this and you like what you heard, subscribe, follow, check out our website. Love to hear from you. Would love to hear any feedback. And just by the way, I won't respond to any comments ever. So if you have a nasty comment or a happy comment or a good comment, that is awesome. But I'm not taking anything personally. This is really something that I'm doing for me and for Rise Up. And I hope you're enjoying it. So yeah, have a great one. And I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Rise Up sessions. If this episode resonated with you, follow the podcast, and I'll see you next time.